I think I'm going to head back. Oh, please, I didn't mean to upset you. Please stay. It's not that. I smiled at her. You know what? Maybe that's why I'm here. The women in my life don't tend to stick around for long. I tend not to get that involved. You know what I mean? The bill arrived. I made a move for my wallet, but she gripped me more tightly. I think you and me are exactly the same, Nick. The last thing I want is an attachment. I freed my sleeve and counted out some notes. She was getting ready to leave, too. So, Nick, maybe we could go back to the hotel and have a quiet drink there, away from the rest of the gang. She nodded over at the restaurant area, where a table of 8 or 9 was still waffling about today's highlights. Thanks, Di, but I think I'll just get my head down. I grabbed my nylon day sack and slid off the stool. I turned for the door as she finished off her drink. She wasn't giving up. Nick, if you can't sleep, call my room. I'll only be reading, or I'll be downstairs with the others. Anything but sleeping, it's just so hot. She wasn't wrong. I pushed open the doors and walked out to the Jazir al-Kabir, into the heat of the night. The restaurant was only a stone's throw from the landmark suspension bridge that spanned the Euphrates in the northeastern city of Deir el-Zor. But there was no cooling breeze off the river. Deir el-Zor meant monastery in the forest. Balthazar had told us. I'd have to take his word for it. All I'd seen was rugged mountains and desert, and farmers tilling the fields on the banks of the river. Not much went on here unless it had to do with the newly invigorated tourist trade. All the action was 80 miles downstream in neighbouring Iraq. There were untold numbers of ancient cities around here. Our guide had continued. They'd survived Romans, Jews, Ottomans, and even the French, who ran the country until 1946. Just about the only natives we'd come across were street vendors trying to flog us camel hair blankets or sacks of cardamom or coriander. What the fuck was I going to do with any of those? It was here that we'd be staying for the next 3 nights of our 10-night runaround of Syria's religious and cultural sites and antiquities. Our tour group was a mix of born-again singles looking for the promised land, history-buff singles who wanted to follow the roots of crusaders, and sad-fuck singles like me and Di. The hotel was the other side of the river. I wandered past the tea houses that lined the road down to the bridge. The pavement tables overflowed with old guys, their hookah pipes bubbling away as they spun the shit. You name it, the topic was taboo in Syria. But the night was the coolest time to get out and get waffling to your mates, so here they were. And the open air was just about the only place they could be confident the secret police's ears weren't flapping. I smiled to myself. If everything went to plan in the next 2 hours, these lads were going to have a lot more to talk about. And they weren't the only ones. Chapter 2. As I crossed the suspension bridge, I couldn't help another little smile. We'd been here earlier today with our ever-enthusiastic guide. Balthazar was a squat, energetic little man with an enormous moustache. He kept twirling the tips as if they were waxed, but they weren't. Seconds after each twirl, the whole arrangement would collapse again in the heat. He was so devoted to his mother country that he claimed just about everything you could think of originated from here. Even Jesus spoke Syriac, which was probably the only fact he'd given us that was actually true. As we'd gazed out across the mighty waters, he told us the Euphrates featured strongly in the prophecies of the Book of Revelation. Where it is written that the river will be one of the scenes of Armageddon. He raised his hands to the skies like a prophet. The 6th angel poured out his bowl on the great river Euphrates, and its water was dried up to prepare the way for the kings from the east. Tonight it wasn't going to be kings coming from the east. It was going to be loud bolts of thunder roaring in from the west, in the form of 7 F-15 fighter jets armed with AGM-65 Maverick missiles and 500-pound bombs.